Hi, this is Dr. Joy back with another Dear Dr. Joy episode. So, I have a question from someone who follows and comes to some of my groups. And I'm pretty sure she was in a group where we were talking about being attached to people, self-esteem, and things like that. So, here is the question. I slept with a guy twice and became extremely attached. He withdrew from me, and it really hurt me so much. What should I do? So, short question, big problem. And when I say big problem, I don't mean specifically for the person who was asking, but it's a big problem that a lot of us have in terms of becoming attached in spaces where there isn't necessarily something established to be attached to. And on top of that, we also lose our sense of any kind of control if we're not able to have the thing that we're attached to. If we feel like we don't have power, right? We feel powerless to have the thing that we feel like we want. So we can be very much removed from like being grateful about the abundance that we actually have if we're so hyper focused on, I just have to have this thing that I cannot have. So I want to talk about actually a couple of concepts. However, the first one being people getting together with people physically. And sometimes people feel like they will not have any emotional connection. And I'm not saying that's what this person is asking about, but I wanted to address it because it comes up a lot. So I feel like if you have continuous connections with somebody 2 or more times, especially a sexual connection, you are going to want to stay attached. You're going to have emotions. It's a very hard thing to turn off. So if anyone is going out here feeling like they can connect very casually with people, I'm not saying sometimes you don't shut something off where you can, but more than likely, the more you continue to do it, feeling like I'm going to be good, the more likely you are to kind of fall into a space that you didn't expect. I don't know if you want it. Maybe you want to be open to that, but just letting you know. So in this situation, if you slept with this person 2 times, and you became very attached, I don't know if that means you acted a certain way that would make him withdraw. If that means you started to be vulnerable and talk about yourself. You're not really asking why he withdrew, but I would definitely be mindful of what happens when you do get an attachment. How do you start to behave? In the beginning, were you very confident, and do you become not confident? Do you start asking more questions? Or do you start talking about future things and that, worries the person? Sometimes you're talking to a person who you thought was in the same track as you. They wanted a relationship, that kind of thing. And so you get attached. And when they kind of realize that you're serious about that, then they'll pull away. Sometimes, again, it could be somebody who wants that in that direction, but they're not ready maybe for the level of intensity. But the last thing that I want to talk about, other than like managing that intensity, is kind of what actually happens with extreme attachment sometimes. So there's a term called limerence. And in limerence, this is a space where you are attached and kind of infatuated with the idea of a person and not necessarily a person. So when you truly love a person, you are, attached to that person, their flaws and all those things. With limerence, you actually will, your brain will exaggerate the positive things about them and very much minimize or almost delete these negative things or red flags that are there. You won't see them when you are in limerence. So being in a space of limerence is something that you can absolutely start to lose yourself when a person that you have limerence with decides to pull away from you. Then you can become so obsessive with just getting that person or getting that person's attention that you start to forget about the things that were important to you. You start to forget about your friends. It becomes just a compulsion to check on them, to just do all the work you can to pull them towards you. And so that's not necessarily a feeling of love either. With limerence, it's more like I'm doing it because I want something from them. I want them to give me something. I want them to validate me, to make me feel a certain way. Whereas when it's you really love a person, it's I feel so bad they're going through this hard thing, and I wish I was with them so I could help them with this hard thing, right? So and this is me telling you this for us to be able to assess, am I possibly dealing with some limerence, right? So when it becomes very much like you feel out of control around not being able to have contact with them, or not being able to say what you need to say to them, right? And you can't have any sense of closure for yourself, potentially you're in limerence. And the thing with limerence is it can actually last for years. It could go on and on and on, and you can continuously kind of like come to try to connect with this person, which may not be a good person for you at all. But again, it is the idea of a relationship that you have in your mind. So I would read maybe a little bit more about that. You can talk to your therapist about that as well if you're questioning, like, why am I so attached? One of the things to do with limerence is to actually sit down and write down the things that you are thinking about this person, right? And just be in a space when you are away from them. You're not looking at them, and you're thinking about all the features of this person, the characteristics of this person. And so if you have, say you have characteristics of them being charming and super smart and whatever it is, I want you to then look for those instances where those characteristics actually came up. And if you kind of have a hard time actually identifying, oh, when they did this or when they, again, it might come back to these are the characteristics and things that you value and you kind of have a fantasy about having, but does that person actually have that? So that might sometimes be a really good assessment if you are attached to the person in front of you or you're attached to a picture of a person, right? So we will very much have a relationship with a projection in our mind, and we can get stuck there and feel like we've wasted time. And that's not what I want you to do. I don't even want you to have to waste time thinking about how much you need to be with this person, right? So there's something, the fact that you were with them just 2 times, again, there's something around that probably has nothing to do with him, that you can dive a little bit deeper around what voids you might be trying to fill when it comes to this particular situation. All right. So that is all I have for everyone today. If you are looking to get updated whenever I do have another question, please make sure that you like, you subscribe, hit that bell for those notifications. And if you do have any questions that you would like to ask me, you can always email me at joy@glowyourgoddess.com.